Hi, I'm Rob Charney, Old Guy Tech TV News 44, and we're here for Opinion versus Opinion we have John Matajastik, Jonathan Charney, and of course I'm Rob Charney. So thank you very much for watching us. Here we are. We're going to give you our opinions, and the whole reason that we're here is basically we believe that the talking heads and all the major news organizations have an agenda. And we feel that we have an agenda too, but maybe it makes a little more sense. We're just trying to bring opinions, discuss some ideas, bounce some things around like you would in your home. And so this is what we're doing. We are.
And if you want us to be like the talking heads, you can make a contribution.
Well, you can always make that contribution.
Like the big corporations do on the big TV deal.
Yeah, that's right. You need to, and we only live on donations, folks, so you need to hit that button a little more if you want to see us next week. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're having a good day. It's not so smoky up here. It was terrible the last few days. Smoke was so thick you would have sworn it was fog. But
coming up from Yosemite.
Yeah. Let's hope that those folks down there in Yosemite and Sonora and all those areas, they get those fires out.
And I think it's at like three or 400,000 acres at this point, something crazy
it's terrible.
Like that.
It's the largest fire. They claimed it the largest fire they've ever had in that area as far as recorded history goes.
It has not burned for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
The one thing that you have on your side in the Yosemite area right now is temperatures are decreasing.
They are.
And it's threatening San Francisco's water and electrical supply. So now it's a real issue. On the other side, you do have debunction function junction here. You have federal funds severely cut back by our I can't think of the word of what we did for ourselves because we didn't vote for it.
Yes.
But federal emergency funds and fire funds are limited.
Yeah, FEMA funds are limited.
I think
they're as of yesterday, I said
sequester.
Sequester, yeah. I think they said something like $22 million already has been spent just on the fire retardant.
I wouldn't be surprised. The benefit, I think the benefit out of the fire, if you can actually turn an extreme negative into a positive, is we might actually have a healthy conversation about forest management, which in the state of California generally means just let it sit there.
Yeah, well, we talked about this before, the difference between preservation and conservation, but that's not what we're here for today. What is hot on the ticket today right now is Syria. I think any of you, if you've turned on the television at all, you can't help but see Obama talking about Syria, and many of those talking heads out there saying, oh, we're going to bomb them on Thursday. So the United Nations inspectors in Damascus are preparing to visit the so-called site of the alleged chemical weapons attack, and Russia sent us a warning. They've warned the United States not to repeat what they're calling past mistakes by bypassing the UN and taking military action against the regime that's in power right now. So that's a very interesting statement.
But I heard, and I don't remember if it was them or another one of those countries over there that are doing revolutions, is
one of them.
Well, Russia.
Yeah, now it seems to be many of them, doesn't it?
Well, because isn't Russia
everybody, the entire Middle East? There are so many dominoes set up there; it's insane.
But isn't Russia an ally of Syria? Because it's one of those countries that at some point in time Russia said, "If you do this, we attack you."
Well, the term ally is used intermixed with all kinds of things. Is Russia an ally? If you sell a country an item, usually you're an ally of some type. So yes. They are.
They sold them airplanes.
Yes.
I mean, the thing of it is
bullets,
Syria,
guns.
Well, you know, the fact that we're sending in inspectors. Let's see, we sent in UN inspectors looking for nukes and MDA or WDM, weapons of mass destruction, WMD, in Iraq, and of course there weren't any, but the inspectors insinuated that there were. So what's the use of inspectors? The clear thing is, and where the Russians really resonate here, is, you know, we've got our foot in it. We put our foot in Iraq, where we got into basically a civil war. I mean, they didn't like Saddam, and he was a dictator and a despot. So we needed to get rid of him. And he did attack, who was it to the south?
Egypt.
No, we didn't attack Egypt.
He did some. You're talking about, I just drew a blank. Anyway, see, it's old guy tech.
He attacked the neighbor, and so there was some defensive stuff in Bush 1.
Right.
Bush 2, he just wanted to finish up what we didn't finish, and that was, at the bottom line, the thing of it is, and I, you said you see Obama. I said I actually see more just talking heads, more rather than I see Obama. And the problem with this deal is he said, if you use chemical weapons, we're going to whip your ass. We've got to do something about it.
And the White House is saying that there is strong evidence that they have used gas.
Well, Kerry said they've used chemical weapons.
Okay, so it's.
I mean, the thing of it is,
it's a known issue now.
See, the benefit is Obama didn't say it itself.
We're trying to put together a coalition again.
Did Obama say that?
Obama came out and said that. Yeah,
he drew the line.
They believe. He said they used it.
We're going to have to do something.
Well, my question is, if did Obama essentially said they used chemical weapons? Because if he didn't say it, it doesn't particularly count if somebody else said it. Unfortunately,
he himself.
Because he threw down the gauntlet.
Not said. I mean, and come on. We know Obama well enough. He's not going to take it. But on this one, he's painted himself into a corner.
Yeah.
He said, if you use them, we got to do something. And now they used them months ago. They've now used them currently. And now he's doing the Obama kick it down the road. I don't want to. I'm not. I
have one
it's
question.
Put up or shut up at this point.
I have one
then
question.
We got a problem, don't we? Go ahead, John.
I have one question.
What's your one question?
We're in 2 countries full time right now. How can we do 3 fronts? I mean, of course, we're winding down from Iraq allegedly.
And we're supposed to be out of Afghanistan by 2014.
How exactly is our commander-in-chief going to expect not to overextend the U.S. forces?
We're not. Here's the issue. There's a difference between bombing them and
there's no
and feet on the ground. Right.
We're still
the whole idea
forces,
is that he's moving a number of our missile cruisers, in the Mediterranean area, and he's positioning them to be able to fire missiles of some type, whatever it may be. And what's his target's going to be? Who's he going to target? I mean, is he going to do a Clinton and lop a few missiles over there and hit a couple tents? I mean, come on.
Well, wait a minute. Reagan did that with Gaddafi, and it was extremely effective.
Gaddafi was smart enough to say, "Shh."
But that was how many years ago? Well, no, I mean, and here's the issue, and where there is a similarity with our situation. And Iran's tied into this, and Turkey's tied into this, and Jordan's tied into this, and I mean, it is, it may be the fuse. The problem with it is there's no boots on the ground. We're not going in physically. We need to trade it off to somebody, and we have an ally in the area in Israel. But if Israel aggresses at anyone, then it's on. Right. We can't say Israel, go take care of it. And in this case, like Iran, these people are not Saddam Hussein. They have current weapons from the Soviet Union and from the Chinese.
That's right.
So
I see.
We're going to find out how good their missile defense stuff is if we lob in these strategic strikes. And I think that's part of the number one. It's beyond military idiocy to say, we're going to bomb you on Thursday.
I see a couple of problems. I see a couple of problems. One
Surprise!
being,
I
see a couple of problems. One being we have a president who apparently is going out of his way to really burn the only ally we have in the Middle East. And 2, we don't understand Middle East politics. We didn't understand it when we did what we did with Saddam. Because
he doesn't like dictators.
Egypt.
He doesn't like Israel.
Well, Israel is.
He doesn't
now,
like.
Jonathan, don't even bring that in. That conversation is so convoluted.
Well, no,
if
I'm
you
not
want to buy into the neocon idea that we're burning Israel.
No,
there are more Jews in the United States that don't support Israel than do.
Well, I'm not. What I'm saying is, it's really the only.
Go ahead, but
it's really only the one spot, whether you like it or not, that we could probably call an ally to agree that there's some mutual trust, considering we're a huge part of their GDP.
Putting all of that aside,
it's got nothing to do with Syria.
Putting everything aside,
I think it does actually.
Well, okay, it's your opinion.
And
putting everything aside here, now let's look at this again. So Obama's drawn the line in the sand, and he said, if you use chemical weapons, we are going to do X, Y, Z. Now, the problem is exactly what is that? He's lining up these missile cruisers, and supposedly he's going to launch and hit strategic sites somewhere in Syria. And I'm sure Assad's going to just stand still and put a big sign out there and says, here I am, send it to me.
Well, here's the question.
It's non-effective. It's non-effective. And what the hell are we doing, sticking our noses once again into an issue that I don't think we should be involved with?
Well,
let them deal with themselves.
Well, here's the question. What happens if Congress says no?
Congress says no to what?
Congress says no to bombing
Rand
it.
Paul wants to have open debate in Congress. The problem of it is it's too effing late. They gave up their war powers, which is technically by the Constitution. The Congress is the one that declares war.
Right.
But they started getting away from that in Korea, even further in Vietnam, even further with Bush 1, even further with Bush 2, and an open debate. Either do it or don't do it.
Well, as we can see, Congress the president does whatever he wants, and then he goes back after the fact and say, "Oh, whoops, can I have the funding?"
No, you can't say that because Bush fought the entire Iraqi war off the budget, and he asked for additional funding. It was never a budget item. And I don't want to get into a Bush-Obama comparison because they don't have
anything to do with each other. The issue still is why Obama has chosen this particular issue to draw a line in the sand.
But he did it months ago.
Yeah,
that's the point. You can't say something and then not do anything about it.
So was he was afraid. In other words, he decided to come out and say something thinking that his speech alone would stop him from using chemical weapons.
If you want to debate the ineffectiveness of the current president, I guess we can have that debate. The reality at this point in time is, and we were talking about this before we went on air, where this becomes a linchpin in World War III is the Europeans who are, we're talking to the French, we're talking to the Brits. The Brits, of course, will come on board. The French, they've got interest. We have to realize that both the Soviet Union and China are doing business with Syria, not only aid, but they're in business with them. They work together. They are allies. And one of the things, if you've been to Europe, you very well know that the Europeans like us, but usually when we do something like this, and this goes back 30 years, when the Americans get involved in something in the Middle East and we do something in the Middle East, they end up taking it out on Europe because they're closer.
Right.
They can tactically bring grief to France, England, Germany, Spain, and people that are involved with us in NATO. All of our NATO allies, they back us. But in an issue like this, when Syria has obviously chemical weapons and no compunction about using them, and they have delivery systems provided by the Chinese and the Russians, that's where it becomes a fuse. In that, if we do this, even if we have a coalition, if you're on our side and we do this, then reparations, retaliation against anybody that is associated with the attack is you said you came with us.
I think
That's the deal.
I think Europeans liking us should be more in air quotes, because the more and more I read on sources, they're not really fond of the U.S. They tolerate us.
Well, you got to realize that Britain screwed with everybody on the planet for 200 years before we got here. It's kind of a continuum of imperialism, and I don't want to be an isolationist, but we certainly, since World War II, in World War I and World War II, the United States was the significant world power, and we did it with our industrial might. We outproduced. We made more bullets, more bombs, more tanks, more jeeps. We buried them with war materials. But since we're no longer in a physical conflict war world, I mean, let's talk about the fact that Syria hacked the Associated Press. Well, that Syria's got hackers that are hacking social media.
Every country.
I have a question.
That.
What's so wrong with playing Switzerland?
And then,
what is so wrong with letting the rest of the world deal with themselves?
Well, because we're not Switzerland. That's not our role in the world. Well, yeah, if we want to be that, and then then we truly are a number 2 or a number 3 nation.
We already are.
We already have the military might to do it. We've got more. I mean, even Russia doesn't have. They have nukes. We're in an ever-increasing nuclear world.
Well, here's the thing that really irks me. Since I think there's been maybe 5 or 6 years period since I've been alive that we haven't been attacking somebody. At this point in time, I don't care. Let the world go to hell. Bring everybody home, and just let everybody else solve their own damn problems. It's costing me money. And it's costing lives.
And that argument is
spent the money.
The argument is Jonathan's argument has been passed around for a long time. At one point, do we say enough is enough, and we let these guys just fight it out? Where's Turkey in this conversation? That's their neighbor.
Well, oh no, Turkey is definitely Turkey is not on not on the side of the United States by any stretch of the imagination on this one.
Well, you would think
they're going to pay for it.
You would think, yeah. Well, you would think Turkey and Iran would say, or Iraq rather, would say Syria. What are you doing?
And I wish I was looking at a map, but part of the problem is Turkey and maybe Jordan or Egypt have taken on hundreds of thousands of refugees from Syria coming into their country to get away from being gassed and shot and bombed and everything else.
Yeah, well, you've got Iraq, you've got Saudi Arabia, you've got Egypt. Turkey's having an immigration issue, I understand, and rightfully so.
They're close neighbors. They're 2 close neighbors, and I think it's maybe Saudi Arabia. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people are fleeing the country, and they don't live in that country. They don't have jobs in that country. So either the refugees are going to starve in the desert, or you have to take a humanitarian look at these refugees. I mean, you're leaving to not get killed.
So, all right. So then your argument is now we have these people leaving, right? They're trying to avoid the gas and the bombs and all that. We got an incoming call. Let's see who's calling. Hi, it's Rob and John and Jonathan on Old Guy Tech TV. Who do we have?
You have your nemesis on here.
Oh, that's got to be Bob.
It's Cal Expo Bob.
Yeah, hey Bob, what's going on?
The tripartite that's sitting there in the front of my screen. One thing that you got to remember that it seems to me that the insurrection is run by the people who are sworn as our enemies, the ones that are trying to overthrow the existing government of Syria, and we're going to go in and
I'm getting some real ugliness in my ears. I just got to let you know that.
All right.
And it's not Bob. I'm just getting a high-pitched squeal.
Oh, I'm trying to. Bob, can you speak right into the phone? You're a little low.
I'm a little low. How's that?
Well, that's fine. Keep going. So you're saying that we're talking about our sworn enemy?
Who is running the insurrection against the existing government in Syria?
Do you mean by that, Bob, that they are terrorists, or do you mean by that they're Al Qaeda?
Yeah, they're terrorists. I can't think of the guy's name who overtook that thing.
It's the Muslim Brotherhood, who, if the government falls, I mean, that's kind of the deal too. If we were to get Assad, the Muslim Brotherhood would probably be the immediate beneficiary of Assad being taken down.
And that's true, but then what does that do to the northern borders of Israel?
Well, that's
you know, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
I think, and you know, we all know that I'm the Obama guy, but the fact of the matter is you cannot kick the can down the road, and you have to have a firm policy. Even though I didn't agree with Bush on much of anything, at least you and the rest of the world knew what he was going to do, and that you know, that sword in hand, that sword rattling is important. And you know, when we were attacked, he attacked somebody.
Well, I think that's also
an eye for an eye.
I think that's also part of Middle Eastern politics, from what I've heard, is if you promise something, do something. And I think that's part of it. Is don't you know, don't chomp on the. Yeah, well,
you steal, you get your hand cut off. You
Right,
get your finger
right.
cut
and
off.
I think that's part of it.
You do this, we'll do that.
Well, when we did the 9/11, and that drove a lot of our going into the Middle East and you know, going after the terrorists, which we're still doing, and obviously they're still having an effect in this country. I mean, they're recruiting and they're getting kids to put pressure cookers around on major events and do it all in the name of Allah.
Well, but those were also Soviets. Those were people that came from Russia that did the Boston Marathon bombing.
Sure.
These
Sure,
weren't
right, right.
Armenians; they were Soviets.
They don't have to come from the Middle East just to be that.
What we don't fully understand, and we do kind of fully understand, is that the Muslim world is ubiquitous. It is omnipresent. It is growing. Yeah, I mean, my friends in Australia are I mean, they're just beside themselves because the era of the white Australian is like over. The Muslims have taken over. They've done business. They do so much business with Indonesia. They've got boat people. They and again, I hate to make it religious, but our friend Osama bin Laden said he will draw us into a religious war that we will not be able to handle. And part of this is the Muslim. I mean, we're supposedly the country that has free religion. They're in no religion, but we are being drawn into a religious war, and it's becoming very much a Christian Muslim conflict.
Right. Did we lose Bob?
Bob, are you there?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't think Bob would go away.
Okay. We were hearing a beep, so Jonathan and I were trying to figure out what that was coming from.
In my headphones, there's a very high-pitched buzz that comes in and out, but I want to hear Bob. Bob, why don't you blast us?
Well, you guys are doing exactly what's going on. The whole thing is a can of worms that the only way that we're going to ever, in my opinion, of course, and I'm sort of a radical, is to make a decision and stick by it. But we have to also find out in that area of the world who is the one that's going to be on our backside, and there's only one country there that will do that if we don't cut them off at the head and allow them to be sacrificed for the sake of Muslim peace. And I'm going to use that, as far as I'm concerned, if we get involved in areas which we shouldn't have, in tribal areas, and that's half of what that countries are back there. You got Shiites, and you've got Sunnis, and you've got all this kind of stuff going around, and you've got an existing government in Syria. Granted, they are probably not the best one, but in the same sense, you've got look what's going on in Egypt right now.
Right.
So,
right. Exactly.
Where do you draw the line? You know.
Well, the point. Yeah, that's right. But draw the line meaning, do we get involved or we don't get involved?
I think humanitarianly, I think with the the Egyptian Spring, etc. I mean, there's no follow through, and the problem is that and again, I hate to get the Muslims don't understand democracy, and democracy is not what they want. The Soviet Union, it was they were a godless country, so there was no God in that war. Here it is, and when you have a secular country and you're trying to impose democracy, and Bob is right on. I mean, Afghanistan, Pakistan, it's all tribal.
Right.
In particular, Afghanistan. I mean, we as Americans in the general public, unless you are a vet, and thank all those brave guys that went and served there, they understand that it's got to do with things that we don't consciously, we don't grasp it. And I'm not criticizing the United States. And herein, Jonathan, we don't know enough about them, and what we do know about them, it's so black and white, it's so night and day, and and we unfortunately we in the United States deal in shades of gray. The rest of the world's rather black and white.
Okay, so here we are now.
I say we don't go. I don't. But at the same time, I mean, I'm as split on this as much as I was on the death penalty issue in California. You can't let that. It's a violation of the Geneva Convention.
Yes.
To use chemical weapons. End of story. So the world should be in an uproar, and the NATO and SATO and every multinational treaty organization should be jumping down their throats and say, bomb them off the planet. Or, somebody said actually a friend of mine that teaches English, and he's over there right now. He said they should send in an Israeli sharpshooter, take down Assad, and give credit to the Pakistanis.
I like that.
Just have Dr. Ruth do it. She's an ex-Israeli sniper.
She passed away.
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh. Who knew?
Anyway, so okay, so we take a stance. I'm agreeing with John, surprisingly enough. I don't think we should be involved with this. Humanitarian aid's a different issue. If you look at the neighbors that Syria has, Iraq, we're not going to be welcome there to help anything. Turkey, they're not so happy with us right now either. There's the other big neighbor on it. So now, you mentioned it, Geneva Convention, chemical weapons, the UN, I guess, as much as I dislike the UN and some of the stuff they've been doing.
And the Russians have said, don't do this without going through the UN.
That's exactly right. That was my headline.
The Chinese and the Russians in the Security Council have backed us down every time we brought it up.
Good.
Well, that's the thing about that. They have veto power on anything.
That's good. Then we can blame them. Let's get the hell out of there. Let's get our ships and cruisers out of there, and just let those guys deal with it. And let the UN, being those guys, let the UN deal with it.
They can't deal with anything.
Because why is the United States all of a sudden think we can instill democracy on every country in the world, because that's what we are. And as far as I'm concerned, those countries, democracy is the last thing they want. They don't understand it. They don't want it. Like
right.
Your Bakersfield friend said.
Right.
What we need to do is just pull out. Sorry, but
you're on your own.
Well, haven't we been?
Right.
Now, is Obama? Would Obama be?
My only issue is part of the problem here, and what started this foment is when we went into Iraq.
Well, we've been trying
True.
to.
Iraq came to the south. Egypt is there. We have,
something's happening.
Yeah, we lost John.
We lost John a little bit, but haven't we been trying this whole democracy thing since I don't know, Korea?
Yeah. Well, that's true.
And if you take a look, it's never
if you
worked.
want to stop communism, it didn't work. John, I just want you to know we lost your audio, so I don't know what happened there. But
I was getting the feedback, and well, I'm going to call back. Is what I'm going to do.
Actually, you're okay right now. If you call back,
it was the screech. It was the screech when I could barely hear Bob because the feedback screech in my ears was so loud. I think we lost Bob.
Bob, you there?
Yeah, oh, yes, I'm sitting here.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
okay, so we still have Bob. Let's just keep going forward.
I do have a question, and I think it comes down to simple. I think we're more in a battle of worldviews. I think it's even a greater worldview battle than here we're in the U.S. is we have an a theocracy versus the right to choose. And you have, there's a Christian apologist I like by the name of Rafi Zacharias that says the reason why they don't like us is because we have the conversation. We have the right to do what we want.
To have the conversation, right.
And I think that's part of it is the fact that they don't want us to have the conversation.
No, they don't. What they don't like is they don't want themselves to have the conversation.
Well, they don't want anybody.
The people in the power, they don't want a discussion. You do what I say, and that's the way they run it.
Well, and that's part of the problem with Iran. Iran has a lot of American educated, highly educated people.
Right.
That want to. It's a modification of. I mean, the Khomeini, the Ayatollah, is still in charge in Iran. That hasn't changed.
Right.
And Ahmadinejad was just a puppet, and he was not reelected. That if you keep people barefoot and stupid, and my apologies to our Muslim friends, praying 3 times a day. Not that faith is not important, but I mean it is their life. And the fact that democracy says no, you are empowered. It happened historically. Protestants, which ended up being Protestants, kind of busted the mold because the Catholics said you are not going to heaven. You need to pay indulgences, and Luther said, nah, not so much.
Yeah.
Right, and there's and in Protestantism, there's a finite number of people that are going to heaven, and we don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So you might as well do the best for yourself while you're here, because
but Luther,
there's nothing you can do here that can get you there.
But in Luther's case, he was kind of an extremist because he did nail the 99 Thesis to a church door. So,
well, he thought the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Because he thought they were entirely. That's a ballsy move.
Yeah, I
mean, that was.
No, it's incredibly
ballsy move.
Well, no different than the Church of England.
I just think the issue is, why are we there? Why is the Roosevelts speak silently and carry a big stick? Why are we still being the world police? Because for the last 100 years, it's done nothing but bring us problems.
So we mostly have been to protect.
World War II ended up pretty good.
Yeah,
but then you hit Korea, Vietnam. You know, it's done literally no good for us to get in everybody else's problems. We've handled the Middle East as well as we've handled most of our nukes.
So if you look at Korea and Vietnam, who were our enemies at that period of time, right? It was communism and Russia.
It was China and
China.
We were still being the world police.
Well, we were fighting what we thought at the time was being told us as the evil communists. I mean, they were the awful people. They were going to be, the end of the end.
We were still being the world police.
When the Chinese took over in '49, the Truman administration was so just leveled by that. They flat dismissed within the State Department. They dismissed all of the Asianists. Anybody that knew anything about Japan, China, Korea, Vietnam, which was Indochina at that point, Taiwan, they dismissed them all. So you want to know how Vietnam happened? We didn't have anybody watching, anybody that knew. We had fired them all in response to, how come you didn't know China was going to go communist? And you don't realize, Jonathan, that was a huge shock.
Well, no, I'm just tired of the world police, that for some reason United States has to solve everybody's problems and we can't solve our own. Let the world burn.
We're the dominant military power. You can't stay out. If you build the weapons, somebody's going to come to you and say, you're the big brother, you got to go beat them up for me.
Big damn deal. Let them sit and spin. I'm tired of I'm seriously tired of people begging for our help and saying you screwed up. Let them burn. You know, I'm tired of I'm tired of it. I'm tired of watching generations die for useless causes.
You think you're Bob? Bob, are you a Vietnam vet?
Not a Vietnam vet. I was in before Vietnam started.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, if you want to hear somebody that's tired of it, talk to a Vietnam vet.
Oh, I know. I know a couple of vets.
And they don't want. I mean, I wish we had someone. And I mean, of the bunch here, Bob, you're the only veteran, and it's, you know, somebody that put the boots and the suit on and went and did the job on whatever level it was. You know, ask them. And I'll tell you, I don't think anybody in Iraq or anybody in Afghanistan, as much as they might humanitarianly care, wants to get in another one. Because you can't, you know, it always starts out, well, we'll make strategic strikes.
Yeah.
You know, it was a police action in Korea.
Well, the issue we have now with the volunteer army is we just don't have the numbers of bodies.
And we don't have the structure that we had to go back the other way.
No.
We're almost in a state we can train, etc., but we don't have the infrastructure in the military that we had in World War II, Vietnam, Korea, to ramp up a suits. And you know, weapons are always one war behind. The suits and boots, people shooting one another on the ground. Look at how effective it has been. As 58,000 Americans died in Vietnam, and 4 million Vietnamese died in Vietnam.
Well,
and what are we at? 20,000 in Iraq. We're at 10,000 in Afghanistan, which has gone on for 12 years.
Well, by the
it's starting to look a lot like 1984.
About Vietnam, and you look at how many people died there. Nobody considers how many people died in the 2 short years of Korea.
Right.
A lot.
Just as many died there as in Vietnam. The Vietnam people, you know, they sacrificed themselves because when you put people in combat and you tell them you can't do this and you can't do that because the rules of conflict are set by somebody who hasn't the foggiest idea of what conflict is or what combat is, and they're sitting in their little house in Washington and the cookie jar.
Guys, I'm just interrupting on a technical note. Bob is clear, and then something in the system goes beep.
Yeah.
I think I hate to say that. I think it's Bob's phone.
Oh,
so Bob's got a call coming.
Yeah, he keeps beeping, but it's
the other
okay.
line, Bob.
We'll ignore the beep. Go on, Bob.
Well, I'll get on my cell phone then.
No. That's all right. Just.
But you know, like I'm trying to say, it's you have rules handed down that you can't shoot somebody until he kills one of your people, you know, or you can't shoot him until he has a clear back, a gun or an armament or something like that. And we have guys blowing up all the time because you can see these guys planting the bombs, but we don't do anything. And every once in a while, somebody might send a gunship down and catch them in the middle of the night doing it and kind of make holes in them. But in the first day, all the way through from after Korea, but in Vietnam, we had the power to win the battles, but we had the mindset to lose the war. And that's the problem with us right now. We've had that continual mindset.
In Vietnam, we also violated the Geneva Convention by creating the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization and putting a puppet government in South Vietnam. We could have made peace in Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh was actually almost kind of an ally, and then we burned him down and said, nah, we want to run the show. We're going to create the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, get all these countries that really don't know what we're doing to sign on to it, and we're going to put a puppet government in down here in the South. It's one thing to liberate, it's another thing to imperialize. And the problem is that we're no longer imperializing. We're just going, getting American guys killed wherever we go, killing civilians in a civil war, and coming to no conclusion.
That's it. We don't have the will to. If we're going to go to war, you go to war to win. You don't go to war to lose.
No.
There's
Yeah, I'm going to get in a fist fight with you, Bob, but I don't really want to hurt you.
Yeah.
There's to heavily paraphrase something I once heard. It's okay to spend lives in the course of an event if you're doing. It's okay to spend lives if it's a just cause. It's not okay to waste lives. And I think part of the problem is we're wasting lives on useless stuff. And that's what bothers me the most is, if it's a worthwhile cause and it's legit worth it, go for it. But I'm tired of watching my friends. I'm tired of watching people die for some circle jerk in a back alley Washington deal. I'm sick of it.
Well, and here's the deal: war doesn't, and this is the stupidity of the entire thing. Yeah, World War II got us out of the Depression. Obviously, Afghanistan and Iraq didn't help our economy any. Okay, because we're no longer an industrialized nation. And wars are, not tanks and ships and bombs, and we got more bombs left over from what we've done before. But here comes the issue, and we've lost our advantage here. We used to have strategic nukes stationed in Turkey. Well, the Turks threw us out. Because you don't have to drop a bomb. You can but there's always collateral damage.
Well, we got thrown out of Turkey because Russia was no longer an issue. So that's what killed that part.
And
it was a Russia issue.
I think the other issue is we'd never be able to ramp up like we did with World War II because of all the environmental impact studies and fees it would take to do that.
And war doesn't care about the
I don't know. Nobody seems to care. But all right. So let's sum this up. We've beaten this into a ground and gone around in a circle and come back, and here we are again.
It goes to show that we don't know any more about it than they do.
Yes, but you would think that. I mean, what? As you said, John. As you said,
the populace. We don't want to go into Syria.
I think you're right.
If you're going by the polls,
I think you're absolutely right. And so now you got Obama boxed in. You said that. Those were your words, and I agree with you. He's stuck now. What's he going to do? Is he going to follow the UN? Is he going to strike a deal with United Kingdom and Aussies and others, or what's he going to do? That's the question.
I think he lets the Aussies and the Brits and the French and the Germans decide. If they want the weapons, we'll give them to them. We'll do it as a NATO operation, and get me a goddamn job. And that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
We keep worrying, and this is where I resonate with Jonathan. We're getting into this thing, and we're not taking care of ourselves. We have issues galore here. I don't know that we need a Syrian war to make it better. Do you?
No, I don't think we need to continue spending our tax dollars that we need to help our own country on something like Syria. What to what advantage? What do we gain?
Bob, say that again, please.
Taking the focus off things that's going on here by creating a focus over there.
Right.
How easy it is to shift from people looking here, all of a sudden now they're worried about Syria and all that, while the rest of the United States goes down the drain.
If they're wasting lives to do that, I'm going to get pissed.
Well, I think you should be pissed because I think Bob's absolutely right. I think
Folks, and I've said this many, many times. If you don't want this to come down, I think we got to go into the streets. Demonstration, peaceful demonstration, brought the Vietnam War to an end.
Yeah, but now on another side, though, I don't think our law enforcement
changed in this country for over 200 years.
I don't think this country's law enforcement understands peaceful civil disobedience.
I don't think they're trained to.
They're proving it by doing things like arresting a protester standing on a bridge with a banner, and
we were there last week, but in that case our system's broke, and we got to go out in the streets and be a democracy and demonstrate and say, hell no, we won't go. You realize I'm as mad as hell and I don't want to take it anymore was 1973?
Yeah.
Well, one thing we got to do is we're facing a judicial system now that all of a sudden doesn't have the moxie or the balls to stand up and say, hey, you can't do that. That's unconstitutional. Our judicial system sitting back up in Washington on their hands until somebody finally shakes their door and they'll do something. Other than that, they don't do crap.
Well, that's back into the NSA issue that we were talking about.
It's back to Ruth Bader Ginsburg over the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, we have an issue. They don't do crap. All they want to do is use every excuse with the Patriot Act if they can, and that is the thing that's killing us. And I said that when it was brought up, and Bush pushed it, and we were all rah rah rah. Let's get these terrorists after 9/11. But folks, you gave up your civil rights in so many ways with the Patriot Act.
And if you ask me, it's Citizens United, it's the Voting Rights Act. I mean, that our constitutional rights, and which have become now racially charged. And a lot of this is our media. I really think that having an Aussie, be a media mogul in this country who is a naturalized citizen, but Rupert ain't no American.
Right.
And he is the most dominant media force in the world, whether it be Britain, whether it be the United States, whether it be Australia. Rupee and the boys, I mean, they've been indicted for tapping phones. I mean, Rupert, the News Corp has been indicted or Sky has been, no, Sky's the other Aussie. But they went through that whole hullabaloo in Britain about tapping people's phone calls and I mean, when the media is totally corrupt and journalism is gone and all it is, why are we centered on Syria? Because the media says we're going to attack on Thursday.
See,
who's running this thing anymore?
See, I think
this is why.
See, this is why I think you're running into a problem with people of my generation and younger. When people in the '60s were skeptics.
That's why you believe this.
Well, no,
you don't believe the broadcast media.
Well, here's the thing: is people in the '60s were skeptic. People of my generation and newer make your generation look like a bunch of flat altar boys because we don't trust anybody.
But then
even the people we jost for,
and demonstrate. That's the only way you're going to do it. When you're talking to one another on your telephone and texting one another or whatever, then overtake the media. I mean, I'm with Gil out here, and the revolution will not be televised.
One of the reasons we started this show is so that we could discuss the issues that are not being discussed on the mainstream television. That's the whole idea. We could say whatever the hell it is we want to say and get our opinions out, and not being controlled by Murdoch and the other, and all these other guys.
That was the
That's
other
the whole idea.
That.
Right? Isn't that why we did this? We did this so that we could do what we're doing. And I don't know where everybody is, but hit that damn donation button and become part of the show like Bob has, and get your voice heard so that we can talk about this stuff. And I think we have a lot of education that we have to do so that people understand that you just don't have to follow orders. Remember, that was one line that was used by the Nazis. I was just following orders. That doesn't fly anymore.
Well, it's because it was the command structure.
We also talked about last week that the government wants to make live streaming illegal. They don't want us to do that.
That's right. They're scared to death of live streaming because they can't control it.
Well, they're looking at Germany in the late 1930s. In this country, to change a few things around, and they're doing the same thing. They're controlling everything there is to control. If they control it, nobody has any information, and everybody can do it and shut us down, shut democracy off, shut freedom off. And I hate to say it, but there's only one solution after that. And,
hold on, Bob, is, and this is where the opinion versus opinion comes from. I do see it as a government, but I also see it more as being the oligarchy. I see it as being the corporations that own the government, the media that is bigger than the government, is just, they are directing us where some MBA marketing geek guy thinks we ought to go. And this is why I am so vehemently, get in the streets, people. If you don't defend your rights, if you don't speak your mind, if they don't see boots on the ground if they don't see heads and people going, no. You know, I mean, everybody else, I did a thing with my kids when I was student teaching. The bravest man of the 20th century was Tank Man in China, who stood in front of the tank and said, stop.
Right.
Just a guy. Just a guy.
Which, by the way, he's
madness.
unknown in China.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
He's unknown in China.
No, he's gone. They didn't get him.
They don't know him in China.
He got away with it. The people scurried him away. But you watch Tank Man, and you go, geez, that's a guy that was shopping, that stood in front of a tank that had every capability of taking him off the planet, and I don't even know they knew that cameras were rolling.
Well, here is my little opinion. I think, unlike the rest of the world, name any country, I don't think Americans will take it. I think we can take it for so much, but my opinion is it's so ingrained in us, freedom or die. I'm
okay with that.
I'm
not giving up my freedom.
I really do
believe.
Kill me
if you're going to take my freedom away.
I really do believe at the end of the day, that as cheesy as it sounds, you know, the American spirit's like a wild stallion. You cannot cage it. It will not let you. And
but you know what?
Woodrow Wilson did. He wanted us to stay out of World War I, but he wanted to decide what the peace was, even after they sank the Lusitania.
Okay. The point being is, the kids, the young generation, Jonathan's generation and the younger, they look at what, you know, Bob and John and I and what we did during Vietnam and those areas. That's history to them, and they don't really understand what took place. And we have those same age groups. Yeah. We have that same age group in charge of law enforcement. Okay, we've got all these young cops out there that do not understand that you have a right to speak your mind. You tell them about the First Amendment, they don't understand that. You know, it's bad. You're standing over an overpass with a flag. You've got to be doing something rad. You're the wrong guy.
You know what happened then? It's Occupy Wall Street. It's the same thing that happened to them. I may or may not disagree with what they stood for, but the thing is, they were generally doing what they were legally allowed.
Well,
and then what happened is you had the news media, which, by the way, was a lot of people in your age said, oh, these hippies, these unwashed masses don't know what they're saying. So it's people of your generation who kind of sold
Fox
out.
News.
Yeah. No, this was...
I got to call you on that one.
Well, this was MSN. This was all of them.
There were others that were saying, in totally support of the occupies. It was Fox News that was saying, they're unwashed, they're making a mess, they're dirty.
Oh, so they were, but that's part of the
so
what?
Too.
Yeah, that was part of the demonstration. So we didn't do so good on hygiene. Big deal. That's not the point.
You guys also hopefully didn't destroy $1 million worth of property in the process.
No. Well, look.
You know something that we're missing here? As a member of the Sons of American Revolution, I think in it. The people in this country are not taught. They're not educated on what formed this country. People that were younger than Jonathan by far, down into their middle teens, died. And older people who had everything to give up, gave it up to form this country. And we took on the best army in the country, in the world, in fact, at that time, and beat them. Today, I don't think we're capable of doing that anymore because we don't have the mindset to understand what America is.
Well, Bob, the funny thing there is that dovetails into another issue, in that when we were a nation of immigrants, when we were Polacks and Germans and Mexican Americans and we were just Mexicans. When people came to this country, because it was the greatest country on earth, and they could find freedom where they couldn't find it anyplace else. And, just the aside that 600,000 Mexican Americans or Mexicans served in World War II and were highly decorated. In the 442nd, the Japanese unit in World War II, the most decorated unit in the war, serving only in Europe because we didn't trust them to serve in the Pacific theater. Okay? But people appreciated you're absolutely right. People understood what America stood for because it stood for something, and they were willing to die to protect it. now that we don't stand for anything, that the line has been so blurred. And Bob, I teach history. And the book, I just look at it and go, I just did in 3 paragraphs what used to be 4 chapters, and was related to American history coming up to that point, how we got there. You're absolutely right. They're not taught. And I just to give an example, where I am, I again, and for the 8th year, didn't get a job, and I called my contact inside. She goes, "It's not a real job. It's already been filled." And I said, "Then what am I even doing this for?" You know, and she said, "Well, we have a new personnel guy, and what they do where I live, rather than bringing new people in with maybe different points of view, they've been drawing all of their history and social studies teachers from the current pool already in the district. If you don't put some new blood in there, if you don't bring in some new ideas, then it becomes, and history's not on the test. It's not a No Child Left Behind subject. And now, yeah, our scores have been up in English and math, but they have been down in history and social studies.
Right.
To the point where, I mean, you know, kids, I mean, you know, we were having this conversation about the Middle East. I went and looked at a map of the Middle East because I wanted to, you know, okay, that's where everybody is. Now
Right.
I know who's got common borders. It's more relevant to me.
Right.
Okay? They don't even think to look at it. When I pull a map down in a classroom, I've got everybody's attention.
Here's the thing for me, and calling America the greatest country in the world at this point, it's a slogan for patriots to sell T-shirts.
It's jingoism. It's not patriotism.
It's a misnomer calling us the greatest country in the world, because we lost that. We lost the ability to have a civil conversation and have a civil response and be able to sit down and act like adults and solve our problems.
Well, we've got a situation in this country when we've got government in every aspect of your life. Okay, you can argue with that, but it's a fact. In every aspect of your life, government says what you can and cannot do. I mean, it starts with, you know, we have this whole NSA thing that's still going to continue to explode, that isn't done yet. We've just started to get the, you know, the tip of the iceberg on that. They're trying to take away our firearms in every way, shape, and form, you know, from taxing it to death to removing it to every stupid thing you can think you can do. And they're in every bit of our lives, and we let them in.
Yeah, but let me also add, they're in the middle of women's reproductive rights.
Yes, that's my
whether you
point.
agree or not. The fact of the matter is, I mean, that is a basic human right, okay? And we made that decision. We need to move on. But yes, it is pervasive. I mean, look at you talk about Governor Brown. Governor Brown's now, because of he's gonna ship the criminals off to other states that have prison facilities that can hold our people and cost us a ton of money.
I think it was $213 billion,
something like that.
Yeah, that he's willing to spend.
That California can't afford.
Yeah, a huge number that he wants to spend to ship these prisoners off, as well as do some infrastructure. But that's my point still. You know, we're
on
still.
The other hand, the Justice Department has said we don't want to have mandatory sentences anymore. We don't want to send these guys to prison. It's clogging up the system.
I just don't know what's wrong. I mean, we're doing something here that I never hear anywhere else, where we have a conversation. When I was growing up, and instead of using your fist, it was talk, have a conversation, sit down, think about it. Instead, we have a reactionary government. We have a president, like him or hate it, his only major asset is he talks well. I don't understand what happened to being adults. Instead, it's like perpetually like third grade recess.
Well, the problem is that because the American people on a whole at times just want to be dumbasses. And we've elected people, we have the Tea Party that they want to break it. They want to flat it, and I'm not saying it's not already badly fractured. But, I mean, we have people that just want to break the system. The problem is, I'm not saying that the system isn't already broken. And I'm not saying that the system doesn't need to be fixed, but offer an alternative if you want to break it. What do you want instead? Well, we want to go back to. Then write it down on paper. What part of what we used to do do you want to do?
Don't lump everybody together in that argument there, John, because there's many people that have ideas and have some solutions that they bring forward. Unfortunately, when you have a majority controlling, the good example is California, when you have both houses controlled by one party, you can't have a conversation. You can't have another opinion.
And both sides are guilty of this, by the way.
I'm not arguing that at the point, but right now you have a Senate dominated by the Democrats, by a small minority, and a filibuster law that doesn't allow that is in protection of the Republic, but is causing us to do nothing. I think I agree with Jonathan from the standpoint, and I've said this before, we need to do something. We need to move forward. We are stagnating. We are fighting and slogging it out over, and we're calling one another names, and you're an idiot because you did that. It's non-productive.
Well, you're absolutely right.
Conversation.
So we're down to about 30 seconds to go here to hit the hour mark. Bob, you still there?
Yep.
I want to thank you very much for joining in on this conversation and being part of the show. Thank you very much. We're going to say goodnight to you and talk to you later.
Okay. You guys have
Please call back.
Well, we'll look forward to talking to you next week. Talk to you later, Bob. And Jonathan and John, you know what? This is the whole reason I wanted to do this show. We had a great show tonight. I hope it turns out okay. We have some technical issues that we're still working on. But I think the whole idea here is to get people thinking. And I think we did that because it sure made me think. And we discussed it, and we agree to disagree on some things, and we agree on some things. And we want to bring something different than the general television media market's doing, and I think we're doing that. So thank you guys for being part of this. And you out there watching, if you're watching us, or what's going to happen, this show will be up tomorrow, and you can sit there and watch it if you'd like while you're washing dishes or vacuuming or whatever you want to do. Watch your show. But I can't beg enough for those donations. The only way we're going to continue is if we can get a few bucks coming in every day to help us continue to pay for all this, because we're trying to do the best we can. So with that, I'm Rob Charney. I'm going to sign out. Got Jonathan Charney, John Manijestic. Thank you very much for watching us. We'll see you next time.